Okay, I want you to picture this. You're locked in a completely white cube with a total stranger for 100 days. There are no windows, no clocks, just these bright, constant lights. Now, this isn't just some weird thought experiment. It's a real social experiment with a huge prize waiting at the end. $500,000. I mean, that's life-changing money right there. And the task? Well, it sounds simple enough. Just wait. But as we're about to find out, sometimes doing nothing is the absolute hardest thing in the world. So that's the big question, isn't it? This is a test of endurance, sure, and definitely a test of sanity, but really, more than anything, it's a high-stakes, high-pressure test of trust. Can two people who literally owe each other nothing learn to rely on each other when everything's on the line? All right, let's get into it. We're going to look at those first few moments when our two contestants, Bailey and Susie, meet for the very first time. They're inside their new home, and you can just feel the awkwardness. But like it or not, they have to make this work. The rules are just brutally simple, and the environment itself, wow, it's basically designed for maximum psychological strain. They get some basic food, a bathroom they have to share, and just one bed. But it's what they don't have that's the real challenge. No contact with the outside world, no way to even tell what time it is, and zero escape from those lights, or from each other. And the biggest rule of all? Their fates are completely tied together. If one person bails, the other gets absolutely nothing. And you know what? It really didn't take long for the isolation to start working its magic. By just day 2, their sleep schedule was a complete mess. By day 4, they were so desperate for any kind of entertainment, they were making playing cards out of a journal. And by day 7, well, they were literally whipping canned pork against the wall. That's what extreme boredom looks like, folks. But just surviving wasn't the whole game. Oh no, the experiment evolved. It also became a test of willpower. Every 10 days, the producers would offer them a temptation, some small comfort from the outside world that would come directly out of their prize money. At first, their willpower was made of steel. A private chef for $50,000? Nope. Luxury beds and the ability to turn off the lights for another 50 grand? Pass. But it's always the small things that get you, right? On day 30, they finally cracked, spending $20,000 on coffee and the entire Harry Potter series. Then on day 50, another 20 grand was gone for a visit from their families. So right in the middle of all this, Susie just casually says this. She's kind of joking about what it would take to get her to spend the big bucks. The only thing she'd really spend on, she says, is a Tesla. Now, you're going to want to remember she said that. It becomes very important. Then comes day 60, and with it, the ultimate test, a giant mystery box. The price tag? A cool $50,000. They went back and forth on it forever. Was it a car? Was it some kind of trick? In the end, they decided it was just too risky. They played it safe. They said no. And the second they made that decision, Susie was just hit with this wave of regret. She had this powerful gut feeling that they had just made a massive, catastrophic mistake. And, well, it turns out her gut was right. And this is where you see the psychological genius of this whole challenge. Inside that box wasn't just their $50,000 back, but the keys to 2 brand new Teslas. The one thing Susie said she wanted. The loss was just devastating, and it really became a huge turning point in that cube. So you could imagine, right? After that crushing disappointment over the Teslas, the pressure inside that box just ramped up to an insane level. That small space started to feel even smaller, and what used to be minor little annoyances between Bailey and Susie, they started to blow up into major frustrations. Their complaints just became part of the daily routine. Susie was fed up with Bailey using all the hot water. Bailey was so annoyed that Susie could never focus long enough to finish a game of Monopoly. He'd have all this crazy energy at 3 in the morning, and all she wanted to do was read. In fact, Susie even admitted she hid the Monopoly dice just so he would stop asking her to play. And this quote from Susie, man, it just says it all. It captures the mood perfectly in those final weeks. It's just pure, unfiltered exhaustion, not just from being locked in a box, but from being locked in a box with each other. They were right at their breaking point. And all of this, all the boredom, the temptations, the arguments, it all leads to day 100. And it all comes down to one final, absolutely brutal decision that's going to determine who, if anyone, walks away with that money. After buying the coffee, the books, and the family visits, their final prize pool was sitting at $360,000. I mean, that's still a fortune, and every single cent of it was on the line. So now they're faced with this classic game theory problem. You've probably heard of it. It's called the prisoner's dilemma, but here it's framed as split or steal. They each had to make a choice in secret, and that choice would test every single ounce of trust they had managed to build over the last 100 days. So let's just break down the possibilities here. If they both choose split, they each walk away with 180 grand. It's the perfect happy ending. But if one person chooses steal and the other chooses split, the stealer gets the entire $360,000. The other person gets nothing. And in the absolute worst case scenario, if they both try to get greedy and both steal, they both walk away with zero. And you can just hear the conflict in Bailey's head right here. He says it out loud. I know Susie is going to split. He trusts her. But that temptation to take the whole pot, man, that is powerful. Could he really betray the one person he'd spent every single second with for the last 3 months? So after this incredibly tense countdown, their secret votes were locked in, and the entire room was just flooded with light. The color of that light would reveal their fate. And the color was green. And green meant they did it. They both chose to split. After 100 days of being pushed to their absolute physical and mental limits, after all the fights and the frustration, the trust they built in each other held strong. They walked out of that box together, sharing the prize they both earned. I mean, it's just an incredible outcome. Yeah, they leave with a life-changing amount of money, but you can't help but wonder, what was the real prize here? Was it the cash, or was it proving that even under the most insane pressure imaginable, two total strangers could actually learn to trust one another completely? It really makes you think, what would you have done?